Welcome to Roopa's Six Questions for Authors. It's a real pleasure today for me to welcome Salil Tripathi. Hi, Salil.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so glad to have you on this. I'm privileged to call Salil a friend, and he's also a
My
brilliant
privilege
author.
also.
So let me tell you a little bit about Salil. He built a career in writing and human rights. He worked at Amnesty International and other organizations by day and wrote early mornings and at night. Six questions later today, you're going to see why these two were never really separate endeavors. Similar to Salil, I'm Roopa Krishnan. I've been Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer in charge of transformation during the day and at night, and it's usually the night. I tend to be an author, and I've written business books and now crime fiction as well. I was inspired to make this program by the questions that I would often get asked by people who came to book events, etc. And so what you'll see here is a great intersection, I think, of both analytical rigor and an examination of creative storytelling as a whole. So to get us started, Salil, tell us about your books.
So I've written 4 books. I have many more in my mind. I have limited number of years ahead of me, so there'll be only a few that I will complete. But my first book was about free speech and Hindu nationalism, which is how Hindu nationalists took over the agenda of democracy and freedom, essentially to snuff out voices. And it was basically about their attacks on M.F. Hussain and Romila Thapar. Then I did a book on Bangladesh and its conflict and the civil war that created the country. I'm very glad to say that that was 10 years ago, but I mean, the war was in 1971, but the book came out in 2014. But a new edition will be out very soon, a paperback edition with a new title, with a new cover from the same publishers, Aleph, who's also your publisher. So there we go. And then I did a book on travel writing, which is called Detours. And my latest book is a magnum opus, as people tend to describe it,
Yes.
on Gujaratis, who we are and why we are the way we are. And that was
Truly
published by
encyclopedic.
Aleph again. Yeah.
Yeah, truly encyclopedic and an amazing read because I had the privilege of having you at our salon here with
Yeah.
you know
I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
no, then the snippets you read out to us are fascinating. So much I learned. Well,
Thank you.
now for the Inquisition, as I call it. Right. So,
Gosh. Okay.
six questions. The first one, I called it the origin spark, right? Every writer has a first idea, the one that really got them to think, I have to write this and I have to make it potentially a book, perhaps, right? So, what was that origin spark that first got you putting pen to paper?
So let me speak about Gujaratis. I'm in an office in Delhi with my editor, David Devidar, and he asked me, tell me about Gujaratis. And I start speaking to him. Then he has to step out and take a call. Coincidentally, my son, who was at that time in his mid-20s, now in his mid-30s, was sitting there. And he said, Dad, I want you to write this book because I want to read it. That was my spark.
Yeah, when your child
Son
tells
wants to
that
know
to
my
you.
story. If my son wants to know my story, I have to write it.
It's an amazing reason to write. Well, that is a fabulous sort of sense of fulfillment, right? And I remember when,
Absolutely.
yeah, I remember when Krishna read my book and came up to me one day. He started texting me with snippets of there were sentences that would end a chapter, and he would be like, "This is absolutely right," and I'd be like, "My God, my American son wants this." Similar to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me then about question number two, the process ritual. Walk me through what writing actually looks like for for you in a typical day, not the roll doll. I put on my writing robe and
No,
sit
I have no
down.
writing robe. I tend to write early mornings, which are the best time because you've just woken up. You still have the dream speaking to you. So that's good for creativity.
Hmm.
Most of my writing is nonfiction, so I don't need too much creativity and go beyond the realms of I go beyond the realms of facts. But early mornings and later in the day, I live in New York, but most of my work is in Europe and Asia. So from about 7 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, I'm busy, but
Mhm.
after that, I'm quite free. So that's the time I can focus back on my writing. And yeah, I just sit and write. I organize my thoughts by plotting it on a piece of paper, which is true, but I increasingly use a computer. And basically, it means absorb everything you can, put it all in a kind of a directory, and then start connecting dots. I know AI now does a lot of stuff to make it easier, but I don't trust it. I still tend to go with my instinct. And then once the framework is right in my mind, then I start actually writing. And there are many drafts. As you know, you're a writer, and it's the first draft is never the best draft. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yes, since you work in almost a deeply research oriented way, right? Since it is not nonfiction, and it's also weighty material that you're dealing with. And with the Gujaratis, I think you sort of had collected information over decades. Is that right?
You know, my younger son, Ameya, who teaches at NYU, he's a professor. The son who was with me when I made this conversation with David was my older son, Udayan, who's a consultant, but my younger son is a writer. And he said, Dad, all your books are autobiographies. And I think it's very, very true. Because when I was writing Gujaratis, essentially I was drawing back into my earliest memories because I had to write about what made me a Gujarati. It meant talking about the train journeys from Bombay to Gujarat. I grew up in Bombay.
Right.
My maternal grandparents were in Gujarat, and I spent most of my summers with them.
Right.
And so it goes back to early 60s and continues. And every anecdote you see, every story. I wasn't planning to write that book all these years, but when I did write it, it all came together.
Yeah. I still hope for, have hope for Team Human because writing is a deeply lived experience, right? So, yeah.
Yep.
So, question number three, the day job tension, that as I call it, right? Writing, and, in your case, I think, you pointed out that writing was always part of your day job too, but, um, you know, putting these books down is a different thing than your daily writing. But they live in the same brain. So how do they influence each other? Is there a tension in this effort, in these two different efforts?
Not really, because my day job deals with human rights. I work with a foundation which works on business and human rights. So I'm concerned about inequality. I'm concerned about the powerful versus the powerless, those with strength and those who are vulnerable. And most of my writing has tended to be about that. So I don't have a fundamental disconnect between that. However, I do write fiction, and when I write fiction, I don't try to bring those things into it in a forced way because I
Hmm.
want that wouldn't be fair.
Right.
Fiction is
Right.
fiction, and you have to imagine, and I leave it at that.
Yeah. Um, Question number four, then. The abandoned idea. What's the book you started, got deep into, and had to maybe walk away from? What does
Oh
it?
gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh.
What
No,
does it
it's a
say
funny
about you?
story.
Yeah.
I was schoolboy. I'm a completely passionate and mad cricket fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
cricket, not the bug, but I mean the sport.
Yes,
I mean, most of your viewers, I presume, are in North America.
that's true.
So I wanted
Yes.
to I wanted to be clear about that. Yeah. So by cricket, I mean the sport which random people in whites play for 5 days in England, and often there's no result at the end of it all. Yeah, but we in India have a good word for it called karma. Yeah, there's no result at the end. Yeah, at least you can't control it. Given that, I mean, I was a teenager when I was. I'm still passionate about the old form of cricket, not the new form of baseball type cricket. But I started collecting statistics. I can tell you every score that one Indian cricketer called Sunil Gavaskar has ever scored in Test cricket. I mean, I can recite it right now, but your readers will get bored, so I won't bother you with that. But given that, I did start writing a book which was a history of Test cricket.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was 15 or 16 at the time. And Roopa Publications was even interested in it. They said, yes, we would like to see it. And once I reached college, I said, nah, it doesn't work. And I gave up. And it's a regret. I think at some point I've written a lot about cricket over the years. And at some point, if I live long enough, I would like to write something about cricket.
No, and I think especially given, where the IPL has taken it, for example, right? There's so many
Yeah,
different
it's made
things.
it into baseball. And frankly, I don't even understand the teams or anything. I completely ignore the IPL. Yeah. I
Okay,
do follow
interesting.
the T20 World Cup because I understand that the teams are full of Indians, but IPL is completely random. And for the same reason that I don't like the English Football League, because it's full of, Arsenal happens to be in North London and Tottenham Hotspurs happen to be in East London, but there's nothing East London or North London about them. Or Chelsea is in Southwest London, but there's nothing Southwest about them. Yeah.
Well, this may be a sign of globalization and how you cannot roll back time on that one,
I
but
know, I agree. I agree.
all right. So 4 books later, you have what I call my fifth question, the shelf test, right? You've got the books out. When you finish these books, do you have an internal sense of what success looks like for that book? What is your personal measure of success? Because I think in today's day and age, counting the, copies sold is not for the faint at
Oh,
heart.
absolutely. And the kind of books I write will not sell a lot of copies. I know that for a fact. And because these are serious nonfiction works. So my sense of success is when I meet someone at a literature festival or at a book reading,
Mm-hmm.
or someone who reaches out to me and sends me a very nice personal note. I had tears in my eyes when a woman who is a Gujarati Muslim woman who lives in Australia wrote to me. I won't name her because I don't have a permission to name her. And she said that you made me believe again in the idea of India.
Wow.
And that was enough for me, because she said that she felt completely isolated and alone given the turn Gujarat had taken. She's a student in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And my book reminded her of the expansive vision and the warm vision of what India is meant to be, the Gandhian vision of India. And I had tears in my eyes when I read it, frankly. And I've had many such responses to what I've written. People have responded to my book on travel writing, which is called Detours. People have responded similarly in Bangladesh. The book I wrote on Bangladesh is very instructive because it's the one. I don't know about what the other writers have felt, but it's one book that I know that was reviewed positively in Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, and that's all that matters.
And
Because
on such a deeply like problematic or intertwined political
absolutely, because the
situation.
book is extremely critical of Pakistan. But my dear friend Kamila Shamsi, a
Right,
Pakistani British writer who
right.
lives in the US and everywhere else, and she told me that, look, Salil, you are criticizing Pakistan when it did something very bad, and that's fine. We accept that.
Right, right.
Yeah, and she said that in one of her novels called Cartography.
Hmm.
Jhumpa Lahiri talks about it in her own short story called Mr. Pirzada in Interpreter of Melodies. So I'm glad it turned out the way it did. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm at peace. Yeah.
Um, so then there's what you tell yourself, and then there's the necessary lie. I mean, when an author has to put a little bit of a blinder on, right, to protect themselves, to believe about themselves, their process, their books, their readers, that helps you keep going, right? What is yours? Do you have a bit of a white lie that you tell yourself?
That's a hard one. So I don't want, I'm very open in what I write. I tell my story. A lot of people know the names of my children, names of my late wife. and that's all fine. But there are, of course, parts that I don't want to reveal, which I will not. And I will keep it there.
Mm-hmm.
If someone probes and if they're accurate and I have to deal with it, I will deal with it at the time. But basically, I want to be judged by what's on paper, and I want them to know that it's honest and true.
Right.
And I want them to read and reflect on their own experiences and see what they can find meaningful out of that.
Right.
And that's the way, I mean, I have plenty of ideas about the way I go forward, about my future books. But yeah, that's the way I will deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you there are a couple of lies I tell myself. One is that the books are for everyone, when in reality, and I write that way so that it's accessible, because there's this temptation sometimes, what I would say my core demographic are probably women who who like literary,
Mhm.
literary books. And so I could go down a pathway of becoming tough to read. And I say, no, you got to keep it accessible because someday everyone should be able to read this. So I think that's the lie I tell myself in a way to make sure that my work continues to be as
I mean,
universal as it can be.
the thing is that, we will all go at one point and we'll be remembered by what's on a bookshelf.
That's right.
What's on that bookshelf should be true to who you are and not what is fake.
Yeah.
And that would be my truth. So there's no white lie there. But
Right.
but the lie is, if I conceal something, it's something that does not affect everybody else.
Right.
And it's
Right.
it's 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 something deeply private. In my case, there isn't anything like that. But people may have things that they don't want to reveal, and people have the right to their own privacy. So
Yeah.
that doesn't bother me very much. But I'm very much looking forward to the year ahead. I have a collection of poetry in Gujarati coming out. My book on Bangladesh is coming out as a land of monsoons and martyrs, is the way David, Yor, and
Mm.
wants to call it. It's the reissue of my Bangladesh book. I will probably have a book about the Nicobar Islands and what's going on there. And there are a couple of anthologies where I have one essay and in one I have some poems. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
an exciting year ahead. Yeah.
amazing. You're so prolific. But tell the audience here about your Nicobar book, because I found that so interesting, the approach you've taken.
Yeah, no. I'm imagining a story where the animals and the birds and the fish and the trees and the fauna resist human presence. I know there's a book out already, and which is fine. I'm
Yeah.
all best wishes for that book. But what I'm trying to do is keep the book situated on the island, and I want India with the capital India not to intrude.
Right. No, I know it's a worthy cause, certainly.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Salil. I truly appreciate you playing along. Then, we'll see you again soon. Thanks to
Absolutely. Thank you
everyone.
so much. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
before I forget, because I always forget, to the audience, please hit subscribe. It's right here. And, stay on top of all these fascinating conversations with fascinating authors.
And buy my books and buy the books of Roopa and all the other great authors. Yeah.
All the information is right down there. Thank you.